So now we're going to have a really good friend of mine, pass this together to Jimmie Williamson, come and chat with you about personality. Jimmie?
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to be here. Nancy stole my thunder. I was going to get up here and say, this is the most fun you'll ever have in Rotary. I loved my time as assistant governor. It was absolutely so much fun, the exact same thing. You do get to know people on a much different level. You have 4 or 5 clubs that you really get to be sort of a consultant. Paul and I were talking about that. You get to be a consultant for those 4 or 5 clubs. Well, thank you, Rod, and 20 minutes to talk about DISC. Man. I usually do this workshop in a day, so 20 minutes is a lot. How many of you went to the, I hope you did, go to the online assessment and took the assessment, walked through that? There are multiple ways to determine what your predominant personality trait is, but that's a quick and dirty one, and there's a much longer and more involved one that costs a lot of money. So it was free and it was online. DISC is, for those of you, first of all, the one thing I don't like about that site is that they call it a test. It is not a test. There is no test. There is not a right or wrong personality. You do not pass or fail it. It is your preference. I do a lot of work with Myers-Briggs and teaching Myers-Briggs. How many of you are familiar with that? Based on Jungarian psychology. If you understand Myers-Briggs, you're gonna understand and embrace DISC. It's a much more abbreviated version, and it's easier to try to wrap your mind around rather than having to go through all of the different 16 personality types. How many Ds do we have in the room? Raise your hand if you're a D. ID? If you're strong D?
SD. I'm not a strong D,
Okay.
I'm an SD.
Okay. You have generally 2 different personality types. You have your dominant type, and then you have your supportive type, or your secondary type. So it is not out of the realm of possibility for you to even be close on some of those constructs. What I tell people some people actually get to the point that one personality type is sort of tying with another, it becomes contextual. You all are professionals. You have dealt with people both personally and professionally your entire career, and you know how to pull certain tools out of your toolbox to be able to handle certain situations. So I'm not bothered if they are similar or even tie. But how many? So we had about 4 or 5 Ds. How many I's? How many S's?
Well, that was my
Your secondary?
No, that's my first one.
Your first? Okay.
That was my secondary. Yes.
Okay. As your primary, S? That's absolutely true. Knowing Sherry, I know that, up one side and down the other. How many C's do we have? Okay.
As a primary?
As a primary. Okay. Yep. Knowing Nancy, I know that's true. We use this, we have used this in our company. There are lots of practical applications. We're going to talk about how you use this to sort of motivate and corral volunteers. But when the company that I was with had facilities, we would put a leadership team in based on the DISC personality assessment. We made sure that we had a D who was running the building. We made sure we had an I who was the marketer. The I is the cheerleader, the person who is seeing the possibilities. We made sure that we had an S who is the sensing, feeling person as the volunteer coordinator and working with families. And we made sure we had a C in there who's doing all the billing and collecting all the money. D personality types generally are the leaders. They're seeing the big picture. They don't get too much involved in the details. They know where the ship is going. I people are standing back there saying, absolutely we can make this. Of course we can make this happen. The S personality is saying, yes, we can, but let's not forget how people are feeling about all of this. You know, what do people really think about it? What are their emotions? What kind of emotional damage are we doing, or are we paying attention to people from a sensing perspective? C's are, okay, what are the coordinates? How do we get the ship? Is it gassed up? Do we have things moving in the right direction? Have we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's? And I really don't care what you think, how you feel about this journey that we're on, but we're going to make it based on my calculation of getting us from point A to point B. So in a nutshell, those are the primary constructs, if you will, for the DISC personality types. I'm going to give you a cheat sheet here. Let me say this. As assistant governors, and really, you're going to need to help your presidents with this. We're going to talk a little bit after the break about volunteers. We are an all-volunteer organization. I don't know about you, but I didn't get paid to do anything really in Rotary. And if you do, then you probably are on the RI staff in Evanston or in some other capacity. You are dealing with volunteers, people who you want to get them excited about what's going on. You want to get them to take leadership. You want to empower them. I was looking at some of the things that you all had outlined up here. You have a big job to get those 4 or 5 clubs on the same sheet of music, really making sure that they are paying attention to District Governor Terrard's plan and what he wants to have happen. So you have a big job. You have to motivate, cajole, inspire. You have to really call on all of your capacity to make this work. If you have someone, let's talk about how you identify people. The first this cheat sheet that I have you here is something that we came up with that I think sort of boils it all down. You can read for days about this, but how do people behave when they're angry? That is an interesting way to look at a personality type. How is it that a D personality would react? They probably have a temper tantrum. An I personality is going to huff and puff and just go on their merry way. The S is going to send you on a guilt trip. I have 2 children that are huge S's, and I know how to inspire and motivate them beyond measure. I guilt them into things, you know. And then I have one that is a third child that sort of came to us rather late in his life and ours. And he is an I, up one side and down the other. And so I know exactly how to inspire him. A C, when a C is not happy, there's irritability because you have not followed the rules, you have not dotted the I's, crossed the T's, you have not checked the procedure manual, you have not done exactly what needed to be done. Predominant moods, and we use a little visual thing there. A D can be huffy sometimes because a D thinks that everybody ought to be pulling in the same direction, and if you're not, it's going to make you angry, and you're really just going to want to say, get with the program. Come on, let's do this. And so sometimes they can have that smiley face turned upside down. An I is always happy. An I is skippity-doo-dah. It's a great day in the neighborhood, and we are going to make this thing happen. You're going to have some I's, and I's are important. You have to have, first of all of these are very important. For a successful team, for a team to be successful, there has to be a D, an I, an S, and a C. If not, you're going to, it's just like the Myers-Briggs personality inventory. If you have all one type of personality, you're going to rush to a decision, but research has shown that if you don't have a good combination, the decision is going to be flawed because you're working in what's known as an echo chamber. You are everybody's, yes, that's right, they're agreeing with you, and so you got to have all 4 personality types. The S is going to be contemplative. and really can show emotion and ask how you feel about certain things, and I want to make sure that everybody's happy and everybody is feeling good about what we're doing, and they worry sometimes about the group not being all together, and so the S can sometimes have that little look of worry. A C is a poker face. Black and white, you've done it, you haven't, it's just clear cut for a C. Conversational style, the D tends to lecture, the I is entertaining, the S is counseling, empathetic, and the C is always analytical. Now, how you implement this thing, this is the second part of this, and then you can see their favorite topics. But everybody has different needs. So how would you motivate a D? You would challenge them. You would ask them to, if they have established a goal, you can say, well, I think that's admirable. However, I think if you give them maybe it's a membership goal that you're going to give them, or when you hand out your sheets where you have your foundation goals and your membership goals, the D presidents on your list are going to say, okay, I can do that. And the way you motivate them to make sure that they do that is ask them to stretch beyond that. If you think you can do 100 new members, maybe you can do 150 new members. If they're Ds, then you motivate them with challenging them. If they are Is, give them the opportunity to shine. Let them be front and center. Let them be involved in, if you've got a big project that's coming up, and this is, I'm going to talk to the president-elects about this as well. If you are doing a fundraiser and you have some Is, let them be the ones that are talking it up in the community and doing the fun things. Let them be the ambassador of fun with the I personality type. An S, all you need to do is tell them that somebody needs their help. I need your help. As your assistant governor, I need you to do this, and I'm going to count on you to do this. And they're going to do their very best to make sure that they don't disappoint you. If they're C's, then you tell them that you have clear expectations and you expect that they will get this organized, and they will produce. All you do is say, I know that you are the most organized person I've ever met in my life, and so I'm sure you can figure out a system here, and then you will be able to share that system with other people. I'm not going to read these things, but you can see there are ways to motivate people, and really you have to be able to read them and read them effectively, and then figure out how you then motivate that individual. Have you had an opportunity to meet your incoming presidents? How many of you have met all of your incoming presidents? Can you begin to see, as you think through the list, what's going to be the biggest challenge for you? Are they all Ds, or some of them unorganized Is? Any thoughts on, as you think through?
I don't know how it fits into personality, but 3 of the 6 of my clubs will have presidents that have done it before.
Oh.
So I'm really hoping that, I'm really pleased that they've all stepped up, but I hope that they don't want to just repeat what they did before.
Right. I would encourage you to share that link with them. They will.
That's
they will
not
have,
part of PETS. They're not.
Yeah, they will. They'll have that, won't they? As part of, they will come to PETS having completed that same assessment that you all have completed. And so, maybe in even in your introductory meetings and your pre-PETS, ask them if they've done it. Encourage them to go online, complete the assessment. Try to get a feel for what your team really is going to look like. And then work with them individually to make sure that as they put together their board, that they have people, thinking about our club, Sherry and I are in the same club. If we want something done from a financial standpoint, we have 2 CPAs in the club that with Franklin, and if it's not perfect, I don't want them out there trying to be the cheerleader and sell. I want them to be the C personality that they are. I want them to make sure that we are that we're within the budget, that we're exceeding our goals, and that we are really making sure that we are doing everything that needs to be done on our list to be able to get the citation. I want to make sure I put them in charge of, or would put them in charge of keeping track of all that. The cheerleader is your public information person. They're telling the story. Your D is your president, and maybe your foundation chair, and your polio chair or your CART chair. And then for your S, just make sure you have enough S sprinkled in there to keep everybody human. And remember, this is a volunteer organization. Questions, comments? How am I doing? Okay. Questions, comments? I hope this cheat sheet will help you to know who you're dealing with, and then be able to figure out how to motivate and inspire.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
That it was a self-observation in doing this. I had taken these kinds of tests before, so I already knew that I was kind of 2 things, fairly evenly 2 different numbers. But in my current job, I have an employee who is very strongly something else. And reading the questions made me sort of identify being around this one person so much. I have pulled way more to one side of my personality in sort of reaction to her personality being so instant, so she's an I, very happy and cheerful, can do anything right away, but do it right away and doesn't really analyze it. And I'm a much more meticulous person, and so it was interesting to me that not only recognizing what I am and what my tendencies are, but how someone else's personality can actually bring something else out in me or cause me to be too much of a C in the situation that I would ordinarily be, sort of reacting to her personality. So it was helpful not only to know my own, but to then identify hers. And I think I can appreciate now what's happening in our relationship as these 2 personality types. Just, we need to identify it.
Sure. To
accept it. That's important for moving forward.
Absolutely. Great point. And what with an I and a C, they can really they can get on each other's nerves because the I is seeing the possibility. The C is making sure that we're on task and things can be done. We used to do a lot of executive coaching, and so you would be on a call once or twice a week with your boss, and the question for every executive coaching conference call was, what needs to happen so that you are at a 10? What's keeping you from being a 10 on any construct, anything that might be a project, it might be something that you're working on. What's keeping you from being a 10? And if it ended up being a personality issue, the first question that was asked is, okay, where is that person on the DISC assessment? And then where are you? And how are you tapping into that particular individual's strengths or weaknesses, and how are you able to motivate and inspire? So does this person report to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you've helped to identify where this person's coming from, and then now I would think that you understand those strengths, and then you can play on that. Don't ever give them something that you want to be fully analyzed and organized. But if you need somebody to go out and beat the drum and be the rah-rah cheerleader, that's the person you call on. And so it's knowing where those strengths are and being able to tap into those strengths that's important. I can't do it all. I could be a C if I needed to. You know, I can be an S if I need to. I have a degree in counseling, and I realized that about halfway through that program, I really didn't care what they thought. I mean, what they were feeling. You know, but I knew that I had to. That's why I would never have worked as a counselor. I wouldn't have been good. I would have been all into that reality therapy. Okay, you think this, the reality is this, do it, get it done. But it's being able to understand where people are coming from that helps you be successful in your relation with them or relationship with them. Questions? Comments? All right. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Let's ask a question of the crowd. Okay. You've heard personality. You've had lots of advice from Jimmie. You're about to go have a pre-pets meeting with your presidents, some of which you've never met before, some of which you have. How do you determine quickly how to interface with them? That was not a rhetorical question.
Let me give you a suggestion. Ask them how they spend their leisure time. What is it that they enjoy doing? Ask them, and ask probing questions about, okay, I enjoy reading. Well, what do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy reading fiction, nonfiction, biographies? What are your interests? What do you do outside of work and outside of Rotary that makes you happy? Where's your happy space, your happy spot? You can tell a lot about a person. If they are very S-oriented or I-oriented, it's going to involve people. If they are a D, it's going to involve ideas and things and projects and concepts. If they're C-oriented, it's going to involve detail-related kinds of activities.
If they're involved in guns and handcuffs and jails and machine guns and bank robbers and terrorists,
Put them in charge of your socials.
How would you?
That's a D personality type. Somebody that you really want to. And then maybe ask them how. And then think to yourself, what can they bring? We're living in an era of accountability in terms of our relations with each other. We have a district-wide, what was the thing that came, Paula, that was your year? We were making sure that people were not sex offenders and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you tap into what is their knowledge base as it relates to the criminal justice system, and maybe you put them as your district child protection advocate. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah. What can that person teach us?
Jimmie, when we're looking to try to encourage younger people than us join Rotary, they have a very different mindset on here than a lot of us. A lot of us have evolved into what we are through our experiences over many years, and they are still evolving, and they have much more now need than we do.
And they there was RI did an assessment of looking at millennials and finding out what inspired and motivated them. They want to come with a sense of purpose, and they want to be involved very early on, making sure that they are making a difference, that they are spending their free time, which is very, very valuable, in something that means a lot to them, and that they're able to really see a return on investment in terms of their time invested and how it impacts their world and the world, the larger world. Yeah, a lot of it. A lot of it is, some of this is maturity, being able to understand how you need to be in certain situations, but everybody has a preferred way of viewing the world, and it's understanding what their preferred way is, and then what they feel comfortable doing. You can all think of people who were maybe an I personality type, and they've maybe been pigeonholed into a job or a position where they have to be very analytical and very concise, and they are so frustrated, and they're probably not going to be successful. And so what you're trying to do is play to people's strengths and put them in a job, or help your presidents understand to put them into a job on their board that really plays to their strengths and minimizes their weaknesses.
Thanks.
Thank you.